I have another question here from YouTube for Fish Eater Friday. Hi, Pope Michael. I've just recently been attending the Tridentine Mass and am very joyful about it. However, you mentioned that the traditionalists are not Catholic. I am confused because I thought I was a traditionalist before I attend the Tridentine Mass and follow the traditional teachings of Catechism of the one true Church. Please explain because I only want to belong to God's Church. Pope Michael, who is the bishop who ordained you as a priest. I learned a lot of good teachings from you as I've been deceived by Vatican II, who robbed me of all my Catholic years. This is a good question about traditionalism. Why do I say traditionalists are not Catholic? Why did I quit traditionalism in 1984, actually at the end of 83? Traditionalists have retained the outward trappings of Catholicity and even the basic catechism. They have the Tridentine Mass. The Mass is not enough. I became a traditionalist in 72, quit in 84. I wrote a letter December 26, 1983 explaining why, and you can find that letter on the internet. It's on pope-michael.com if I recall. The problem with traditionalists is they're not seeking to end the crisis, although they more or less recognize the problem. And I say more or less because their traditionalist includes a wide spectrum. And we came by it honestly. In the late 60s and early 1970s, we were all trying to sort out the extent of the problem. I mean, things were changing in the Catholic Church. You'd go in and they'd say, well, we're going to do it this way instead of this way. Now, I can remember that myself. This is what I grew up with until we quit in 72. And I was happy to get out of there, thank you. Thank God for that. This is what caused us to leave the Novus Ordo, all this changing going on. At the time we were leaving the Novus Ordo, all of us were implicitly sedevacantists. We believed Paul VI was a heretic and not Pope, because a Pope is not going to give you this garbage. The Vatican II Church was in no way, shape, or form the Catholic Church. Unfortunately, our priests did not point us towards a solution. This solution was discussed by one priest that I know of in the 1970s, and his voice was not heard. In fact, I believe he was silenced in 76, shortly after he met with Archbishop Lefebvre. And it's my opinion that he may have been murdered. I don't know. There's circumstantial evidence. Okay, by the late 1970s, traditionalism became entrenched into its present form as you know it today. In the early 1980s, the three basic branches became solidified. By 1985, all discussion of ending the problem, the crisis in the church, had ceased. Let us consider the three basic propositions of traditionalism. And the first is that of the Society of St. Pius X. Basically, for the Society of St. Pius X, the Pope has schizophrenia. At one moment he's a modernist, another moment he's a Catholic. And so when he orders something traditional, he's a Catholic, like John Paul II's decree against women priests. That's Catholic, that's traditional. Humanae Vitae of Paul VI, that's Catholic, that's traditional. Other times he orders modernist things, and therefore he's a heretic, and we can ignore it. And so instead of being Rome has spoken, the case is closed, it's Rome has spoken, the debate is on, or whether or not what Rome said is Catholic. This is merely Protestant private interpretation. If George Bergoglio is truly Pope Francis, then we must accept him completely and obey his every command. Same is true of Joseph Ratzinger, Carol Wojtyła, Albino Luciani, John the Baptist Montini, and Angelo Roncalli. If they are Pope, we must obey completely. If John Paul II was Pope, when he ordered Lefebvre not to consecrate bishops. Lefebvre committed a mortal sin of disobedience when he consecrated bishops. The only thing that it could possibly justify that is if Lefebvre said, Carol Wojtyla, you're not Pope. I'm going ahead and consecrating bishops until we can get a true Pope. So the Society of St. Pius X position is not Catholic. We could call this Pope sifting. The Society of St. Pius X is waiting on George Bergoglio's conversion. They waited for Ratzingers, never happened. Wojtyla's, nope. Luciani's, nope. Well, he died right away. And then Montini's, nope. Now we move on to the second position. This is actually probably a minority position, and I think it's even misplaced by some people. The second position is that of the ex-Icone professor. He used to teach for the Society of St. Pius X until just before I arrived in 77, and later he was consecrated bishop by Bishop Peter Martin Yodin-Took, that is Gerard de Laurier. He's the one who got Lefebvre to stop saying Novus Ordo. This thesis holds that Bergoglio is only materially, not formally Pope. They hold the same about Ratzinger and Wojtyla, because it was invented in the early 80s, before Took died. In fact, Took started reading it, wadded up like a piece of trash, opened the window and threw it out and said, this is garbage. In any case, because he's only materially Pope, while he sits there physically in the chair of Peter, we can't do anything about it. But we can totally ignore him because he's only materially Pope. He's not formally Pope. When he converts, then he will of course be a Catholic and he'll do everything right, and then we just follow him. Position or problem solved. If I tell you that you need to convert, I'm saying you're not a Catholic. And if I say that George Bergoglio needs to convert, I'm saying he is not a Catholic. And St. Robert Bell, among many others, hold that a non-Catholic cannot be Pope. You can't have a half Pope. He either is Pope or he is not Pope. It's an either or. I mean, I remember when I first heard about this, I said, this is a bunch of garbage myself. I said, either he is or he isn't. It's an absolute all in or all out. And I know someone says this is a branch of sedevacantism. I think it's more to the Society of St. Pius X position. They're waiting for his conversion. So are the Cassiacumists. That's what theory was called at one time, because it appeared in a paper by a name of Cassiacum, I believe. In any case, they're waiting on conversion. Not going to happen in my book. I do not see Bergoglio converting. In fact, I don't see Bergoglio even having a successor who convert, because he may be the last of this line of anti-popes. I hope that. This leads us to the third group, and that's sedevacantism, which holds that there has not been a pope since Pope Pius XII. Now, they also popes some of Pope Pius XII's later decrees, because they say modernists influenced them. Can't do that. This is forbidden by divine law. We don't judge the Pope. It's a matter of divine law. It's a matter of faith. The papal see is not judged by any human authority. That's a matter of doctrine. Okay. So, sedevacantism, though, is consistent in that it rejects all the anti-popes and declares them just that. If John 23rd and Paul VI are anti-popes, we can take Vatican II and throw it out the window and totally ignore it. That, at least, is reasonable. We go on down the line, everything came out of Rome. It's not Rome has spoken, the debate is on. We're saying that's not Rome. Okay, so we don't have to listen to him. We don't have to listen to George Bergoglio any more than we have to listen to the Archbishop of Canterbury, or whoever that happens to be. He's a head of a non-Catholic sect, or in the my book and in the sedevacantist books. At least that's the consistency. Unfortunately, sedevacantists have no concern about ending the vacancy. They're acting as if the vacancy will continue forever. Oh, you might hear words, oh, yeah, something will come up soon. Yes, at least the Society of St. Pius X and the Cassiacumnists, the material formal crowd, say that when he converts, there'll be an end. There are many other problems with their position, but at least they have a solution. And some of them are even saying, million rosary crusades and stuff like this to at least bring about his conversion. At least they are doing something. Sedevacantists aren't. Sedevacantism is also divided into several sects, which shows that they are not the Catholic Church. There is no unity. The mark of unity of the Church is not present among sedevacantism. Why are, I think in Phoenix, there are several sedevacantist churches down there competing. Okay? All of the branches of sedevacantism, to my knowledge, derive their orders from Bishop Moises Carmona, who was consecrated bishop by Bishop Peter Martin Yodin Took. Gerard de Laurier was the other one, and of course there's Bishop Adolfo Zamora, who was with Bishop Carmona until he died not too long after they had some falling out. In any case, the first branch stems from Bishops Musi and Vesalius, who were consecrated by Carmona in 1982. Carmona consecrated Musi. Musi, assisted by Carmona and Zamora, consecrated Vesalius later that year. Bishops Musi and Vesalius took the United States, split it in half at the Mississippi River, and divided it in two dioceses, forming two dioceses. That's a usurpation of papal authority. Only the Pope erects and modifies dioceses, but that's what they did. They then demand the obedience of the traditionalist priests, the independent traditionalist priests, because basically at that time the division was Society of St. Pius X and independent priests. Okay, they demand obedience from the independent priests. The independent priests all said, you can take a flying leap, and refused. But you still had Musi and Vesalius. Musi did get a couple priests to go with him and consecrate them all bishops. They all died right away because one of them was like 80 years old when he consecrated. Anyway, they did found these two dioceses. Then Musi and Vesalius had a falling out. After Musi died, I think in about 91, Vesalius did consecrate a successor for his diocese and a successor for Musi's diocese. These two dioceses still exist in the sect that Musi and Vesalius founded. The second branch comes from Bishop Pivarunus, who was consecrated by Bishop Carmona, and this is the old Schuchart bunch, the CMRI. Once the CMRI booted Schuchart and got with Musi, Musi conditionally reordained all their priests. He ordained Pivarunus when he was ready a year or two later, and then Pivarunus went with Carmona, because the only thing there was a split. Maybe Musi might have been on his deathbed, I think, around that time. In any case, this is the CMRI has now gained respectability. But the CMRI has nothing to do with Vesalius and his few priests and bishop. I think Vesalius is actually dead now. But his successors are operating. Now, Bishop Pivarunus consecrated Daniel Dolan, a Society St. Pius, ex-Society St. Pius X priest, left with a 9 as a bishop. Now, I don't think there's been like a formal split between them, but they cross paths. There can be a CMRI chapel and a Dolan chapel, like in Phoenix, Arizona, I know. It does have both. You can look other cities, you can have both. They're not really working together anymore. Then there are other independent priests out there who've been like ordained by Carmona or Dolan or Bishop Sanborn, who holds the material formal but works with Dolan. And I don't quite see how they can get along, but there are priests who are splitting away from these bishops all the time. So sedevacantism is what my mom calls Pius. It keeps dividing and dividing and dividing. And this shows they're not Catholic. I think I'll end here and continue the question next Friday, because I see we've already gone rather long, and the point I want to bring up is extremely important, and I don't want to get buried at the end of a video. So I'm going to lead with that one next Fish Eater Friday. So enjoy your fish today, and you got something to look forward to next week. God bless you all on this Fish Eater Friday.